So what the hell is Daca and why do people care about it anyway? Hello everybody, what is up? I'm Julia, friends call me J-Rock. Thank you for tuning into Tumbleweed Logic one more time. Today we're starting a brand new segment. It's called The Morning After, that's gonna be focused totally on politics and current events. Most of you may not know, but I am a politics junkie. Like, I love all things politics. You may have seen that I did a couple of videos, they're up here somewhere, regarding politics, but nothing really heavy. But I decided, politics is something I'm really interested in. And with the Trump administration in place right now, I figured there's a lot to talk about and there's a lot for me to share with you guys. So I decided that I was gonna create a completely separate segment within the Tumbleweed Logic channel, The Morning After, that basically breaks down what happened in politics yesterday. So unless you weren't paying attention to anything yesterday, no news media, no social media, nothing, you probably saw a whole lot of outrage, a whole lot of uproar about something called Daca and something that the Trump administration did when it came to Daca. But not everyone knows what that program is, not everyone knows what it applies to, and not everyone knows what the decision that was made yesterday, how that affects people. Set the tone here. What the hell is Daca? DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This program was put into place by President Obama in 2012, and it basically grants young undocumented immigrants a reprieve or a break from the fear of deportation. So for 2 years, you are protected from deportation and you're also granted a work permit. So you're authorized to work for 2 years in the US. And then at the end of 2 years, you can then apply for renewal. The program helps these young undocumented immigrants who came into the country illegally with their parents. So it wasn't their choice. And so the program helps to protect these people from suffering for the sins of their parents, basically. So if you're wondering how the DACA program got into place in the first place, like I said, President Obama was the one who enacted it, but he didn't do it through Congress. The way that he did it was through executive action, which means that Congress didn't develop a bill and then put it on his desk to sign. He used the presidential power within his office to put this program into place. Yesterday, Donald Trump sent out his henchman, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, to announce that the administration was ending or rescinding the DACA program, which affects roughly about 800,000 young undocumented workers in this country, young undocumented immigrants. But let me tell you how Trump was slick with it though. Instead of just ending the program and just putting his foot down and saying, program's over, I don't want to hear about this again, he makes the announcement that he's ending the program, but providing a 6-month window for Congress to come up with its own legislation surrounding these young workers and then broader immigration reform. So if you're asking yourself, well, if he's willing to kick the can down the road, why did this decision even come up in the first place? The problem is there were 9 or 10 attorneys general from Republican-led states that threatened to sue if the Trump administration did not end the DACA program. They were going to sue to halt the program immediately because they say that President Obama overreached with his authority to put the program into place in the first place. So they said they were going to sue if Trump didn't act. So that's the reason why they had to make the announcement by yesterday, because September 5th was the deadline that these attorneys general gave before they said that they would sue. So that's why they went ahead, made that announcement, and then kicked the can down the road to Congress. It's a slick way of doing it. Why do these 9 or 10 AGs actually care about doing this right now? Like, why is it so urgent? There's a lot of different reasons. We'll probably get into that a little later. But I think overall it's the continued indigestion that there are things that are still in place from the country's first Black president. No one was happy that President Obama was in office for 8 years. No one was happy that he was able to put anything into place. That's the only reason I can come up with. Because once we go into who these dreamers are and all the myths surrounding it, it won't make sense as to why they need to end the program. So now you're probably thinking, okay, I get what the program is and where it came from, but who are these people? Where do they come from? what do you mean by young undocumented worker? Like, what is happening? Just break it all the way down. Okay. So first things first, who are the dreamers? Who are the Daca recipients? Now, the term dreamers comes from the Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act, or the DREAM Act, which was a bill regarding these particular type of immigrants, young immigrants who came with their families illegally through no fault of their own. This act was in Congress and if it was passed, it would allow these dreamers to have a path to legal permanent residency in the US. However, that act died in Congress, and so he decided to put in place the Daca program, which doesn't grant all the protections and all the benefits of the DREAM Act, because those who are Daca recipients, they're not legal residents, they're not citizens, they just simply catch a break from deportation and then have the right to work here. And before the news propaganda gets to you, telling you that all these people are from Mexico border wall, no. First of all, these individuals, while the majority of them come from Mexico, out of the 800,000 I mentioned, I think roughly 600,000 of them do come from Mexico. There's still another 200,000 people who need to be accounted for, and they come from a number of different countries. And it's not just countries in Central America or countries in South America. It's also people coming in from South Korea, or people who came in from South Korea, Jamaica, Guyana, not just all Mexico. These individuals came in as children from a number of countries all the way around the globe. And furthermore, these folks are not just living off in a corner somewhere in one state. These folks are scattered throughout the entire US in just about every US state. They're all across the country. They live and work next door to us. They go to school with us. They're across the country in every state. Now that we have the background on the dreamers, Daca, where it came from, let's go ahead and bust some myths wide open. Before you start watching, or if you've already watched and you're confused about what they're saying in the news when it comes to these individuals and why the program needs to end, let me go ahead and crack some of these myths wide open for you. The first myth you'll hear is that, oh, well, these people are illegal aliens who came across the border with no regard for American values. And wrong. These particular individuals that are under this program, they came as young people. In fact, to be eligible for Daca, you had to have come into the US prior to turning 16. So you couldn't have been a full-grown adult just walking across the border and then apply for Daca. That's not how it works. You had to have come to the US under the age of 16. And many of the folks who came here, they came as very young children or infants. So they didn't have a say in whether or not they came legally, illegally, on a plane, on a boat, whatever. They didn't have a say on anything. They just came along with their parents. And because they came at such a young age, they don't know any other home except America. They don't know any other values except American values. Hell, a lot of them may not even speak any other languages except for English, because this is where they were raised. So that's the first one that goes out the window. Myth number 2, these dreamers, they're all criminals. I know that people like to peddle that rhetoric because it makes the position about deportation make more sense, and it would resonate with more people, but that's just not facts. The facts are, on the actual U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website, it clearly outlines the criteria for the Daca program. We just talked about the age limit, but there's also something around the criminal record. And the website states that you have to have a clean criminal record. That means you can't have been convicted of a felony. You can't have been convicted of a significant misdemeanor. And if you were convicted of a misdemeanor, it had to be 3 or less of the kind of minor offenses. And you have to prove and show that you're not a threat to U.S. security or U.S. public safety. So basically, you can't be some sort of gang-banging, murderer, rapist, pedophile, arsonist, thief, and still apply for the program. So I know that a lot of news stations, Fox News, like to make it sound as if the people who are in this program, or people who are dreamers, are somehow convicted felons who are just staying in this country. That's not the case. In order for you to participate in this program and be able to renew, you have to show that you have a clean criminal record. In fact, when you look around the country at who the dreamers are and who the Daca recipients are, they're working alongside you. They're students, they're teachers, they're working at tech companies coming up with the next big thing. These are people that are just as American as the rest of us, who are seeking the American dream to create a life for their families. Myth number 3, these Daca recipients, they're just leeching off of society. They're just sucking up all the social programs. Again, Daca recipients are not legal residents. Daca recipients are not US citizens. It solely protects you from deportation for 2 years, and it grants you a work permit. That means that you are not eligible for the social programs that are afforded to US citizens. This means you're not getting food stamps. This means you're not getting welfare. That means you're not getting access to many of the different social safety net programs that are afforded to other Americans. And even though they're working and paying taxes into the system, because they're not citizens, they can't have access. So before people make it seem as if they're, it's this group of people that's sucking up all the government benefits and that's why you can't get some, stop getting beat in the head. That's not what's happening. Myth number 4, these Daca recipients, they're taking all the jobs in America, all the jobs, no jobs for any Americans because of these dreamers. Our politicians love to play on the emotions of those who are currently in a bad situation, unemployed, underemployed, struggling to take care of a family. They love to spew rhetoric that kind of touches those people without it being in any way factual. Let's talk numbers quick fast. The population of the US is 323 million people. The dreamer population we talked about a minute ago is 800,000. US population, 323 million. Dreamers, 800,000. So looking at the stark difference between those numbers, I'll have to say that if you're an American and you don't have a job, the likelihood that it's solely the fault of someone who's a dreamer is probably slim to none. Furthermore, the US economy has been steadily expanding and increasing over the past several years. When you look at how the stock market has been performing, it has continued to improve since about 2009 or so, when we were beginning to pull ourselves out of the recession and the economic downturn of 2008. And as a result of all of this economic growth and expansion in the stock market performance improving, a lot of companies have started to expand hiring. I mean, we've seen the different days with like Amazon where they're hiring tens of thousands of people all in one day. Other companies are doing the same. In fact, there are companies that have come out and said, we would love to hire people. We've got plenty of job openings, but the skill in the marketplace or the skills in the marketplace aren't what we need to fill these jobs. A lot of people aren't equipped with the right skills to get these jobs. So it may not be the fault of an undocumented worker that you aren't getting a job. The question is, do you have the skills? Disclaimer, I understand that not everybody who's unemployed falls into the category of not having the skills. I'm just saying that there are companies who have said that there are openings, they don't have the workers. And to talk additional numbers real quick, the US unemployment rate is 4.4%. 4.4%. Now, while there are plenty of people who don't have jobs and we want people to be employed in this economy, 4.4% is a relatively low percentage in comparison to historic numbers, especially looking back at 2008 when people were losing jobs and so forth. There has been significant improvement in the unemployment rate. And then when you dig into the numbers even deeper and you look at it by ethnic group, whites have a lower unemployment rate than that 4.4%. The unemployment rate amongst whites is only 3.9%. That's significant, obviously, to those who don't have jobs. But when you look at it in the context of the 4.4, it's even lower than that. In comparison to blacks and Hispanics, where the unemployment rate is 7.7 for blacks and 5.2 for Hispanics. It's not that this population of dreamers is out here stealing all the jobs from all Americans. So let's think about it now. If they aren't stealing our jobs, leeching off government programs, if they aren't criminals, and if America is the only home they know and the country that they love, why do people care And what is the big fuss about having these people deported and ending the Daca program? It's based solely on racism and bigotry. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try to find another term for it. It's racism and bigotry. People in power are seeking to oppress those who are different and those who have little political power. You've seen that with the transgender ban with the military. You've seen that with the Muslim ban that was being implemented earlier this year. You're seeing it with this. Those who have little political power, those who are easier to oppress in society, these are who the people in the administration, the people in power right now are going after, simply because they don't like them, simply because they're not a fan of non-white people or people who are not like them. They're not necessarily straight or evangelical or whatever. They're looking at to target those people who are different solely because they're different. The people who are Daca recipients are people who are contributing members to the U.S. economy, to the U.S. society. In fact, a study was done earlier this year that showed if all Daca workers left, the U.S. economy stood at risk to lose about $400 billion in GDP, or gross domestic product, over the next 10 years. That's not a small number. If these people were just leeching and, being criminals and not doing anything in our society, there wouldn't be that kind of a potential impact to this economy and to our nation. So let me set the scene for what things are going to look like going forward. As of right now, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, they're no longer taking Daca applications. So yesterday, September 5th, was the last day for applicants, so they're not taking any more new applicants. If you're a current Daca recipient, they're going and you haven't applied for renewal, they're not going to revoke the 2-year permit that you're on. They're going to let that expire. They're not going to just pull it out from underneath you. Also, if you're a current Daca beneficiary and you submit your application for renewal by October 5th and your benefits were scheduled to expire between September 5th and March of 2018, they will process those renewal applications. So you have a month, if your benefits were going to expire in that window, to get your renewal application, and those will be processed. The administration is telling you, if you had a hope of applying for this program, it sucks to be you. We're not taking your application. And then if you're a current beneficiary, we're not going to pull the rug out from underneath you, but we're not going to renew your application either. Past that certain deadline in March, if your renewal was going to come up after that. However, there are a couple of silver type linings in the clouds right now for those who are Daca recipients or Daca beneficiaries. Right now, a lot of major companies are pushing back and say they're going to protect the dreamers that work for them. Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, and also some states are also pushing back as well. New York State, Washington State, California, they're also saying that, hey, we're not going to allow you guys to just come in and steamroll the people who live here, work here, who are paying taxes into our system. So there is still the potential for this to be challenged in court, and for the states and for different companies to continue to protect those individuals who are at risk within this program. So that's good news. The less than good news is the fact that he did kick the can down the road to Congress, saying that there's a 6-month window. Problem with that is bills surrounding this topic have died in Congress before. Hence, we saw what happened with the DREAM Act. So I don't get all the warm and fuzzies that Congress may come up with something that's actually useful. But hey, you never know. And also, Trump tweeted last night that if Congress doesn't come up with something in the 6 months, he will then revisit the issue. So it doesn't even sound like he's convinced that he's doing the right thing. I mean, he doesn't usually seem like he's convinced of anything. I think he's just going wherever the wind blows if it means that he overturned something that President Obama did. But he doesn't even seem convinced that this is the right thing to do, because it isn't. We all know it isn't, but he's trying to cater to a small population of his base, those who are white nationalists, white supremacists, Nazis, racists, bigots, those who want to take America back and make America great again. He's trying to cater to those people, but he's realizing the backlash is a lot more widespread and it's coming from all sides. So looking at everything, it seems like there may still be some hope for these individuals who love this country. This is the only home they know. They speak our language. They work with us. they're just as American as the rest of us. There may be some hope that they will be protected from deportation and that this cruel gesture by the Trump administration will not fully go through. But that's pretty much it. I wanted to break down what Daca was, who it was affecting, what the myths were, so that when you see it posted online and you see people with all this rhetoric, I've got numbers to back this up, and there are plenty of people who can fact check all of these positions that they're putting out there as to why the program needs to end. There's no factual basis, there's no numerical basis, it's all emotions. And again, people who are racist and bigoted who don't want black and brown people to have anything. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the Daca program. Let me know what side of the fence you're on. Let's have a discussion in the comments below. And until next time, I want you guys to laugh hard, love hard, dream big. Look out for your neighbor. Stand next to your neighbor who's a dreamer. Stand with them. They need you. And this is J Rock out.